Hi, welcome. A very good afternoon to you today. Thank you for joining our webinar, Why Cloud First, Not Internet First. My name is Paul, and I'm here today to introduce our speakers and to help moderate the Q&A after the presentations. But first, a brief introduction of our topic. The cloud is now squarely in the mainstream, and the cloud-first approach is no longer new or exceptional. But as many organizations have found out, the slickest online services and cloud systems are of not much use if users and customers cannot access them reliably. Solving this problem is more challenging than it sounds. IT systems are more interconnected than ever, with systems like single sign-on authentication, productivity and collaboration tools often interlinked across the internet and the cloud. And because of the current pandemic, probably more workers are working at home than at any point in history, away from reliable corporate networks. There's also another bigger, less obvious problem. With more complex networking than ever, businesses have relinquished visibility. And we all know you can't manage what you cannot measure. They are losing control. So here's the question. Against this backdrop, how do you deliver exceptional digital experiences to your customers and users? Having good connectivity is obviously the solution. But how do you, as the IT manager or CIO, bring that about? That is what we want to talk about today. We have with us two speakers for this webinar, Gina Chua, the Associate Director at Singtel, and Ian Waters, a Senior Director at ThousandEyes. They will speak for about 20 minutes each, after which we will end with a short Q&A. Without much ado, let's get started. Over to you, Gina.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. I am Gina, taking care of international IP VPN and global internet service in Singtel. As enterprise adopt the cloud-first strategy in their network transformation, choosing the right WAN connectivity is important to ensure business continuity and user experience is not compromised. There is no one-size-fits-all option in terms of network connectivity that you can deploy in the network. So today, I'd like to share with you in choosing the right connectivity that best suits your business needs. If you are or intending to incorporate internet access into your network, this session will be useful as we look into the key considerations in selecting the right internet provider. Internet routing itself is complex. ThousandEyes provides the tools that make internet visibility possible. So together with me, we have our guest speaker from ThousandEyes, Ian Waters. He will lead a demo to showcase how internet visibility is enabled across network and how internet routing can impact the user experience. So for those who has just joined the webinar, hello and welcome. We will start today's session on cloud first, not internet first. Let's take a quick look at the network trend today. Enterprise from all industry need greater network agility to support their digital transformation. Public cloud is on the rise. During this pandemic, the rise in remote working drives up the demand further for public cloud services and cloud communications. Adoption for SD-WAN also accelerated over the years. We know the benefits of SD-WAN. It helps to simplify WAN backbone by leveraging on the different underlay transport, such as MPLS, Internet, to achieve potential cost savings. But the fact is, SD-WAN is an overlay network. SD-WAN will still depend on the physical underlay network that connects the offices for site-to-site and site-to-cloud communications. The quality of the underlay network, which is the MPLS or Internet, is important to ensure application performance is optimal and business users are not impacted. Hence, choosing the right connectivity is key, and I will be sharing with you in the next few slides. So the question to ask ourselves, why cloud first, not internet first? There is no denying that cloud adoption is on the rise and it has become mainstream. Enterprises are embracing cloud-first strategy to deliver digital business capabilities. However, before you can enjoy application performance and overall IT efficiency provided by the cloud, have you assessed whether the underlying network is able to support the increased workload and traffic flow between WAN network and cloud efficiently? These are the common challenges faced by the enterprise when they shift the workload to the public cloud. MPLS and Internet are two popular options for enterprise to connect multiple locations across countries for site-to-site and site-to-cloud communication. So let's understand the construct of the different underlay network. Yeah. Internet is primarily made up of networks owned by the various ISPs, which is the Internet Service Providers, interconnected globally. So there is no single service provider who can guarantee end-to-end traffic delivery over the public internet. The peering points are referring to the interconnecting points between the different ISP. Basically, internet performance varies with the peering points that ISP has. And a good ISP should have extensive reach and direct connections to incumbent, key content providers, and cloud. So there is no way to get a meaningful QoS over a single internet connection because of the generic peering point. Whereas MPLS is a private network and is considered reliable and secure by nature. The MPLS backbone is often owned by a single carrier and within the carrier's control. Hence, network performance is guaranteed. So while MPLS cost has been coming down over the years, it is still relatively costly as compared to internet. So I believe in evaluating the trade-off between the benefits, cost, and viability of the different network connectivity to achieve cost optimization over time. Internet is primarily used for non-critical application, and mission-critical applications are on MPLS network. Basic internet connection may not be sufficient or meet the business user requirement. So there may be still a need to have MPLS to achieve some appropriate service level assurance. Here are different options for enterprise to connect their WAN network to the public cloud. With the objective to improve access to applications and overall performance, the preferred choice of connectivity to the public cloud is crucial. Getting it wrong can lead to poor application performance, negative user experience, and even possible downtime that impacts the overall business productivity. So look at the option, look at the direct MPLS to cloud option. Most MPLS carriers have direct connections to key public cloud providers via the Cloud Access Gateway. The benefits would be the enterprise can leverage on existing MPLS network to establish a secure and seamless cloud connection. However, there is also downside, right? The downside would be there will be increased latency where the traffic from the local branch goes to the centralized private cloud gateway in the MPLS network before breaking out to the public cloud provider. The other option is to have a direct internet access from branch office to public cloud. So having such distributed architecture with local internet breakout to cloud may have a significant performance enhancement depending on the branch and also the cloud location, but also depend on the quality of the internet and local regulations may vary across country. So there is really no one-size-fits-all option across the sites that spans across the different countries globally. So I would recommend to deploy internet access in branch office as it offers flexibility in reducing latency between cloud and the branch office. This strategy can also complement with direct MPLS connectivity to public cloud services for sites that need stronger privacy and performance assurance. When it comes to implementing Internet into enterprise WAN network, it is not an easy task. Internet quality vary across countries and even varies from one region to another within the country. So, for example, the internet schemes offered by the same provider in China may vary from province to province. Adding to the complexity, different countries have different local regulations on the internet as well. So today, let's look at the 3 considerations in selecting the right ISP locally. So first, we do a recap. Internet is made up of networks globally, where the routing can be complicated depending on the ISP peering points in key locations. In this example, how ISP A in country A is connected to ISP B in country B. The key is choose the ISP who has direct connectivity to key cloud providers, as well as well connected to the incumbent and key content providers globally through peering or transit. Having direct connectivity to eyeballs means lesser hop to reach the end destination, hence better performance and lower latency. The second thing to take note would be the type of internet access plan selected for the branch, selected for the retail and hub sites. It is very crucial. Okay, it must be able to fit or support the enterprise networking requirement. So apart from the cost where DIA is more costly, the main differences when comparing the type of internet access such as DIA, broadband, and cellular would be looking at the last mile, whether if it's dedicated or shared, looking at the download speed, whether if it's symmetrical or asymmetrical, looking at the bandwidth, whether it is guarantee or non-guarantee, shared, and also the flexibility of the access plan. The second consideration would be ask yourself who to buy internet from. There are many ways that enterprise can procure internet locally. So enterprise who has overseas office can procure internet from local ISPs directly. There's also another option where enterprise can procure local internet from aggregators like internet resellers. There's a key advantage here where the enterprise will have single billing and a one-stop shop convenience. Lastly, enterprise can also procure local internet from service providers who has own network backbone and resells local internet from ISPs globally. So the question will be, what is the pros and cons in each option? I see the benefits of procuring local internet through a service provider like Singtel. Service providers who has own network backbone are able to address poor internet routing potentially. So for us, for Singtel, we are embarking the initiative to connect the various ISPs across the regions to our network backbone, reducing the number of hops to reach the end destination, with the objective in mind to make internet routing more predictable. So this will be the new internet route diagram that you see in this slide. I believe this will differentiate our internet service and offering from local ISP or other providers. So the third point would be choose the service providers with visibility tool that can enable enterprise to make sound decisions in their ISP selection. Okay, real-time network traffic path across internet and various carriers will give you insights on the ISP performance to other ISPs or public cloud. With the data set, you'll be able to tell the true performance of the ISP. So for Singtel, we deploy ThousandEyes enterprise agents in our network and actively monitor the local ISP performance, which we procure and we sell to our customers. So let me show you two data sets which I have observed. In the first data set, it shows the internet performance between ISP to ISP. So in this case, we are selecting the right ISP to procure in Bangkok office. In Bangkok, there are 3 ISP to choose from: ISP B1, ISP B2, and ISP B3. The data shows that the branch office in Jakarta using ISP A is having good latency to ISP B1 in Bangkok. ISP B2 performance is equally comparable, but we wouldn't choose ISP B3 as the latency is way too long. It is about 185 milliseconds for ISP A to send traffic over the internet to ISP B3. So what it means here is that ISP A and ISP B3 do not have direct connectivity. Internet traffic is routed from Jakarta to the US and back to Bangkok. Second table shows the internet performance between ISP to cloud. The data set shows that the ISP A performance between Guangzhou and key cloud providers in Singapore. It shows a longer network latency in accessing Google Cloud. Even though network latency is ideal between Guangzhou and Azure and Ali Cloud in Singapore, packet delivery and jitter are important parameters to consider for considerations as well. So in this case, MPLS may be good alternative instead of internet for better underlay connectivity. So if you procure internet from Singtel, you can have access to the visibility tool and able to execute actionable insights on the internet like your own. This will be my last slide before I pass on to Ian, who will demo on the internet visibility and power visualization across carriers. I hope you find the key considerations in selecting the right ISP useful. So proudly present Singtel Global Internet Service, where we provide business-grade internet service for enterprise offices globally. Singtel partner with more than 50 ISPs worldwide. The numbers of partners are increasing as we speak. We are actively adding more partners in our portfolio. So by engaging local ISP directly, it means competitive pricing and faster turnaround time for pre-sales and post-sales support. These are my partners whom we have good working relationship for the past decade. Hence, we are confident to extend some level of assurance in terms of availability and TTR to our customers for both DIA and broadband plans. So often, if you go to local ISPs or you go to aggregators, internet resellers, they do not provide SLA for broadband plans, but Singtel, we do. In the network diagram, you will see our VPN gateway, where we provide flexibility for internet users to hop on to MPLS network. So the use case will be if enterprise is facing intermittent issues on the middle mile, which cannot be resolved quickly, the only solution is to route traffic to an MPLS network. So using the same internet connectivity at the enterprise office, establish IPsec to the nearest gateway to hop on to the MPLS network. Yeah. So this also means MPLS is now acting as a backup network for you. The closer between the enterprise location and gateway to MPLS means that the shorter latency and variables on the internet last mile, hence better performance. This is also the reason why Singtel built multiple RVPN gateways globally. That's all for my sharing. So I hand off to Paul. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Gina. Now, for those of you who join us midway, we are doing a webinar on why cloud first, not internet first. So Gina Chua of Singtel just presented. Next up will be Ian Waters of ThousandEyes. Now, just a quick reminder that we'll be having a short Q&A after the presentations. So if you have any questions, please key them into the chat box. You can do it at any time, and we will get to them during the Q&A. Ian, over to you.
Great, thank you, Paul. So hopefully you can see my slides okay. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for attending this this joint webinar between Singtel and ThousandEyes. I'm just going to share a few slides talking about ThousandEyes. I know Gina has referred to the partnership we have with Singtel, but some of you may not be that familiar with the ThousandEyes brand and what we do. So I'm going to talk about that for a little bit, and then I'm just going to flip to a demonstration of what the type of visibility that we believe companies now need and that Gina referred to looks like. So just to talk about ThousandEyes for a little bit, for anybody who's not familiar with the brand. At ThousandEyes, we're a SaaS company, a cloud-based application, and we exist to essentially help our customers see, understand, and improve the digital experiences of their customers and employees. Now, that's regardless of where they are, regardless of which networks they're using, and regardless of where the application sits. So many of our customers in recent years, as Gina referred to, have been on this journey to cloud. A lot of their existing visibility tool set or existing visibility stack has been very much built for a private network world, and suddenly they find that there are big gaps in visibility that they have. So we really help fill in that gap so that you can see the end-to-end user experience from wherever that user is to wherever that application is. Now, we do that in a number of ways. I could spend a lot of time talking about how we do that, but just to give you a headline view, we are an active synthetic monitoring technology. We are agent-based, and we use a blend of agents to give us vantage points into that digital experience from all around the world. So we have our cloud agents, which are the agents that we operate ourselves. Actually, this slide is a little bit out of date. We're now approaching 200 cities where we have these agents around the world. They sit with ISPs, and they also sit in the public cloud, in the major public cloud providers. And customers can use those to basically set up tests almost instantly and start having visibility into any publicly facing IP address or URL. We make that same software available for agents to deploy internally. We call that an enterprise agent, but essentially customers put that in their data centers or in their VPCs in the public cloud or in their branch offices to give an internal vantage point into that digital experience. And the final piece is the endpoint agent. This is a program that runs on laptops and desktops, and it enables companies to troubleshoot and manage user experience down to an individual level. And as you can imagine, this year, with the disruption to working patterns and with a lot of us working from home a lot more, this has been an area of focus for us because suddenly companies have had to troubleshoot for their workers being remote when maybe only a percentage of them were before. Now, ultimately, our platform addresses this visibility challenge around digital experience, and this is what Gina was referring to earlier on in her transition, when she talked about the transition to things like SD-WAN or perhaps direct internet access and the cloud in general. Now, it used to be the case that depending where you are on that journey, it may be 3 years ago, 5 years ago, or longer, that everything was fairly stable in terms of the network architecture you operated. Our users were largely in the branches. They largely worked back over a private network to an enterprise data center where we ran our applications. And because we effectively owned the applications and owned the network, or at least had it on a managed service from a provider like Singtel, we could apply certain technologies to monitor that, like SNMP or packet capture or flow. Now, obviously, the world has changed. That MPLS network is still a crucial part and a crucial component, depending on your approach to networking. But it's now part of a much broader interconnected set of applications and a distributed application architecture. Driving that is obviously cloud and SaaS. But if you've got remote workers, they may be using things like secure web gateways as well. And if you look at the customer inbound experience, there's lots of other providers you're relying on, like a DNS provider or a CDN, or even something like a cloud-based DDoS mitigation provider. And all of these things have to work together seamlessly to deliver that user experience. In fact, if you think about modern web applications, often they have a whole raft of back-end services that they make calls to. So they're even connected on the back end as well, and that connectivity is crucial to making them work. So this distributed architecture is now a fact of life for a lot of organizations, and it's how do you actually manage digital experience end to end across that type of architecture. I'm going to talk today, I'm going to demonstrate largely the internet and WAN visibility side of the ThousandEyes platform. There are lots of different aspects to the platform, but when we're talking about getting that sort of visibility into the internet and cloud provider networks that Gina talked about, this is really the portion. And we have designed the platform to be able to give you simple, intuitive, end-to-end view of your own network, whether that's MPLS or an SD-WAN tunnel, or maybe it's just direct internet access, obviously the internet, and then the cloud provider network as well. And it's really been able to visualize and see the internet and the cloud networks like they're your own, so you can rapidly isolate problems wherever they sit. Now, this is only part of the picture. We have, I'm going to demonstrate today, is very much around that path visualization and network metrics. We can go further down the stack to things like BGP routing and look at BGP flaps or BGP hijacks, and we can even go down to the device layer and layer 2 visibility into devices. And we can go up the stack to application experience, where we can do transaction scripting and actually do browser synthetics of a user journey through an application. The idea is that you can actually correlate on a time basis and go up and down the stack to see where the issue may be. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to focus very much on the path visualization and network metrics part of it. So let me quickly flip into that. So we should be able to see now my browser. I'm first going to just talk a little bit about our points of presence. So you can go onto the web page. You can see this is /product/cloud agents, and you can see where the cloud agents that we deploy all around the world are. We deploy them configured for IPv4 and IPv6, and you can use these agents as a service almost instantly to set up tests and start collecting data. As I said, we run those and operate those, and users just subscribe as a service, which means it's very quick to set up. We also run, I did mention this before, we also run them in the major public cloud providers, so the likes of Azure, Google Cloud, AWS, and Alibaba. So you'll see that the regions for Azure all have agents in, ThousandEyes agents, which again you can use as a service as well. And those agents really give you those external vantage points. You can blend them with your own internal agents and endpoint agents and get a complete end-to-end view. Now, obviously, those agents normally target to a particular application or destination. And one of the popular ones is something like Office 365. So if we go into the platform, this is sort of classically how an organization would operationalize ThousandEyes around something like Office 365. You can see that here I'm tracking availability of that application for Outlook, for SharePoint, for OneNote, for online, and I'm looking at response times for those various applications around the world. Now, equally, this could be a dashboard based on selecting and monitoring the right ISPs for a particular region of the world, as Gina talked about. It could be something that's monitoring an SD-WAN deployment or even a private network deployment. So in this instance, it's built around an application or a suite of applications, but you could effectively monitor performance of any cloud region or ISP and start to operationalize how you do that over a period of time. In this instance, we actually see, Asia Pac for SharePoint is It's showing a lot of long response times. It's probably something to do, I'm not sure where the customer's SharePoint instance sits, but their primary and secondary SharePoint instance may sit in North America and Europe, and so suddenly you're seeing a poor performance from APAC. Now, this is just an example of the dashboard. I wanted to show this just to show how we aggregate those tests up, but really what this is based on is that test data. So what we've done is we've set up a number of tests in the last week just to monitor connectivity between a number of our agents in the Asia Pacific region. And I'm going to use some of the share links that we've captured or some of the incidents that we've captured just to show what the platform looks like. So you can see this is a test which is targeting Outlook in Office 365. So this is effectively Azure. So it's an example of that ISP to cloud connectivity that Gina was talking about. And this is something that we captured from last Sunday. And at the top level, I'm looking at an HTTP server test. I can see things like availability, response time, and throughput, and I can see the different agents that I've selected. I can also see that we're having some issues with availability. We're dropping below 100% availability over time here. And I can see that there are some particular agents that are, or sites that they could be, that are having issues. In particularly, we're having one from this particular agent in China. And I can see that all our agents are resolving DNS, but actually we've got a connect error here. So maybe there's some sort of network level event going on that's giving us an issue. So what I do first is I just drop straight down into that network layer. So I'm suddenly going into looking at layer 3 metrics like loss, latency, jitter, and I can see that we've got, you know, quite a trend of loss. And again, I can see that loss is coming largely from that particular site in Guangzhou in China. So I also want to look at latency. So let's see what's happening with latency. So I can see my latency, my overall latency is actually pretty good. But again, if I go into China, I can see that 2 of my agents in Guangzhou are doing very well in terms of getting back to Office 365. But one of them, on China Unicom in particular, is showing sort of unusually high latency. So let me try to troubleshoot that. You know, if you think about how you would normally troubleshoot this for a user who could even be at home, who's complaining about intermittent issues from a particular part of the world with Office 365, it's a pretty complex process. But what we've done is actually give you the ability to visualize the routes that those agents are taking. If I just look at the particular one we want to troubleshoot, I can see fairly early on where the issue may lie. So this is my agent in Guangzhou. I am going to Microsoft in Hong Kong. So users from Guangzhou are coming across the internet and they are entering the Microsoft Edge in Hong Kong. And where I see the problem lie is actually from the China Unicom. In the transition between China Unicom and China and Hong Kong, I have significant link delay. So I've actually isolated, you know, where the issue is on that path for those users very quickly indeed. I know it's not an issue with hops across mainland China. I know it's not an issue in the local ISP. I know it's not an issue in the Microsoft cloud architecture. I know exactly where my latency is sitting. So that's an example of how you can quickly get a view into path visibility. We've set up some other tests which were more around testing ISP to ISP connectivity. It was another use case that Gina referred to. And in this one, I've got a number of agents again in Guangzhou, and they're targeting an agent in Bangkok. And I can see that actually one of the agents, actually the one on ChinaNet, is doing considerably better than the other 2, just from a latency perspective. So again, that's interesting. It's just one incident. It doesn't mean over time, over the month or over a year, that the performance is going to be the same. But at this particular point, there's a noticeable difference between the 2. So I want to be able to then click into the path visualization and again look at the type of visibility you need to be able to manage the modern digital experience. And in this instance, if I click into one of the agents which is having an issue, I can see the agent in China Unicom going to the destination network in Bangkok, and I can again see an issue where that China Unicom backbone hands over to, in this case, NTT in Tokyo, and I have a big delay on the link. So that is where the issue is occurring. Now, if I actually look at an alternative ISP route from one of the other providers, so perhaps if we go into this ChinaNet one, I can see that the route taken here is that at some point, ChinaNet hands over to the China Telecom backbone, which has its own different AS. And I can see that China Telecom backbone actually goes all the way into Tokyo itself before then handing over to NTT. So the point of presence in Tokyo helps optimize performance, it would seem, on this one instance. Final example I'm just going to show is one around loss. So again, this is based around the same set of agents that we set up. It's the ones in Guangzhou testing back into Bangkok again. And I can see that we've actually got quite a lot of loss going on. So if you remember, we've got classic layer 3 metrics like loss, latency, jitter. When you're doing agent-to-agent testing, like we are in this instance, we can do both directional testing, so bidirectional, and we can also do things like mean opinion score for voice and start to look at tests based on UDP, which are maybe more important for collaboration applications or voice and video applications. So in this instance, I can see a high level of loss from one particular agent. In fact, there's loss across all of them. But I want to look into it and just see what's happening here. So if I go down to that agent, the one which has the most, I can actually see a pretty complex view here, right? So I can see that, as Gina was saying, this is a network of networks. There's a lot of connectivity. There are a lot of hops. And, you need to think about how you architect to perhaps minimize the journey from the user to the application. I can see both directions here at the top, going in one way to the destination and then coming back the other way. And actually on the way back, you can see one particular route has quite a big delay on it. But actually where my issue is identified pretty obviously, is actually in the destination network, where I see a high amount of packet loss. And that's what's accounting for the overall drop in user experience. So hopefully they're useful examples. As I say, it's a bit of a quick tour through the platform. Obviously, there's a lot more complexity there as well. So obviously, along with Singtel, happy to go into more details or to share more as required. One thing I just want to finish off on before I'll hand back to Paul and we can see, I guess, move into the Q&A. A lot of our customers initially realize they have this visibility need when they have an issue, a challenge. They've rolled out perhaps an application, maybe they're opening a new site, maybe they're changing networks, and they suddenly realize that they don't have the visibility they need. But what we're actually starting to see emerge is more of a life cycle, and this is in harmony with what Gina was saying around really testing in advance and seeing what your ISP performance is. Rather than moving to cloud applications or cloud regions and then testing your experience, it's about partnering to be able to test it in advance so you can baseline performance in the planning phase and define key KPIs. And then as you go through that build or that implementation or that network transformation, it's about really being able to monitor success against those KPIs. And when you move into the run phase, it's really all about being able to reduce mean time to resolution and to get on top of those service desk costs and effectively manage the user experience. So at that point, hopefully that was useful. I'm going to hand back to Paul, and we'll see if we've got any questions to get to.
Thank you, Ian. that was most fascinating. I mean, seeing how you were able to dissect the root cause of problems to a popular SaaS offering over the weekend. So we have to go to the Q&A right now. And Gina, I have a question for you, right? How do you ensure that an internet connection is suitable for corporate use? I mean, you mentioned that Singtel broadband has SLA, but not everybody has that.
All right, thanks, Paul. I think first of all, look at the enterprise network. Look at your network. Identify the hub branch location and determine how the traffic flow today, especially between site to site and site to cloud. And also watch out the key parameters that you want certain applications to run smoothly, such as maybe latency within 150 milliseconds or not more than certain X percentage of packet loss. So if you are deploying internet into the network, it is best to have a data set, okay, to determine the actual internet performance of the ISP before you jump into it. So if you have 50 sites globally, I would say it is either you work with various ISP to get the data, but of course you can reach out to us, you can reach out to Singtel, where we have already deployed ThousandEyes enterprise agents in our network. We can actually advise you which local ISP provide the best performance based on your traffic profile, based on your network location. And sometimes certain locations, PRS may work better than internet, but you have a choice, okay? You have a choice to choose the type of connectivity that you need. Yep.
Thank you so much. I think, Ian, if you could tell us, right, is there any way to, how do you reckon enterprises should focus their efforts on to get maximum, digital experience uplift in the shortest amount of time? Yet?
Sorry, I was talking on mute there. So I guess we've seen quite a change this year, right? I mean, I think that previously enterprises have been on that transition to the cloud. We've seen a lot of them moving to particular public cloud providers, and obviously often multi-cloud providers. I think most big enterprises are using at least 2 public cloud providers, if not more. And obviously they've been accelerating that rollout of SaaS applications as well. So I think our customers have been, prior to this year, they've been focused very much on, how do we get the best network performance around public cloud in terms of regions and region to region, or even AZ to AZ performance. And we've been able to help in a lot of that transition. Obviously this year, it's been a little bit different because we've all had a big change in working patterns. Now, I think if anything, the events of this year will accelerate public cloud adoption and SaaS adoption even more than it was already. But a lot of our customers have been now focused on how do we support our remote workers, and that involves things like the ability to troubleshoot, an individual's experience working from home across their local ISP with their Wi-Fi and everything else. And we also saw a lot of interest in monitoring of VPNs, because obviously VPN consumption spiked as well. A lot of enterprises had been anticipating 10-20% of their workforce to be at home, and suddenly the majority was at home. So there's been a lot of focus on VPN performance as well. So I think obviously this year has been an unusual one, but overall, that it's accelerating that move to cloud and to SaaS, and the ability to actually baseline and benchmark is key.
Thank you so much, Ian. And thank you so much, everybody, for attending our webinar today. Our time is up. So if you have any questions, please email to us at the email address shown on the screen. And we hope to see you again soon at another webinar. Thank you so much.